on first. I go on to later.
Okay. So we should probably watch the 10-minute mark, but I don't think I'm going to go over.
Not enough solutions.
Yeah. Too bad we don't have Angry Birds, so we can't like
That's true.
people.
I watched her presentation this morning on the web. It was crystal clear.
Excellent.
It's really good.
You ready to get started?
Yeah, ready. Okay, are we ready? Everybody here? Coming in with your snacks? Okay, this is Law School Educational Technologist Survey 2 years later. Who we are. I have from in alphabetical order, Debbie Ginsberg, Ed Tech Librarian at Chicago-Kent. Me, Assistant Director for Electronic and Outreach Services at Cal Western. Chester Kozikowski, thank you, Ed Tech Specialist at Boston College. Lindsay Matz, Educational Technologist at William Mitchell. And Alex Berrio Matamoros, Educational Technology Specialist, well, it's a long title, Legal Information Librarian and Lecturer in Law at Boston College. Okay. What I wanted to note was we did this survey a couple of years ago, and I was the only one involved 2 years ago. And I underlined everybody's titles here who had educational technology in the title. And of course, I'm the only one who doesn't. And the background behind that is that we found out in the survey 2 years ago that not everybody, obviously, who performs educational technology duties has that in their title. I was given these duties a few years back, and I was looking for a group to go to for advice on best practices, how to use educational technology in the law school environment, and there wasn't one. So we sent out some messages on the law librarians list and the technoids list, and we got a group together. And we did a survey, and we did a presentation 2 years ago. And we found a lot of people were kind of thinking the same thing, that they needed more background on, or more advice, more collaboration, input on using educational technology concepts in law schools. So this is what we're going to tell you. I'm going to give you a brief overview and comparison of the survey results from 2 years ago versus this year. Then we're going to tell you a little bit of the highlights of the 2011 survey and state of educational technology from what we can tell in law schools today. And then a little bit on what has changed in the past 2 years from what we can tell from our survey and from our own personal experience. And we would also like you to tell us, don't do that, about your experiences. What's working for you? What is not? Feel free to interrupt any of us with questions. The point of all of this is to communicate, discussion, share information. Because I came into this, at least me, as not knowledgeable, but I like to play with computers and I like teaching. And I've learned a lot just working with these guys. And you know, I think we all have seen there has been a lot of changes in the past 2 years. And of course, it's critical mass. It's just going to go on. Yeah. Okay, by the way, in case you don't know, please check out, we have a blog. And we would like to encourage, if this takes off, this blog as a communication vehicle for educational technology in law schools. And you could subscribe via RSS, email, Twitter feed, comment, or write for it. Okay, we set it up, but it's for everyone who works in this area, has anything to do with this in law schools. Okay, so please contribute. I'll show you what it looks like. There it is. It's on the CALI website, Law School Ed Tech. We've got a little bit on CALI here, but we need your input as well. Okay, back to full screen. Okay. Yay. All right. Comparative overview between 2009 and 2011 in surveys. What stands out? First off, this is not a scientific survey. We sent out emails on the various lists that we all subscribe to. Respondents were self-selected, and each year's survey's questions were not exactly the same. So this is all from what we can observe from the results. Okay? And I think you can glean some trends from it. Okay. In 2009, number of survey responses, 410 people visited the survey, 110 completed, about 68 individual schools responded. 2011, 117 people visited, 76 completed, and we used a different survey software, a very sophisticated one. The results were tabulated from 92, even though some of them that were not fully completed. And if you did participate, thank you. We couldn't have done it without you. Okay, and so compare and contrast the past 2 years. Positions with educational technology as part of their job duties, even if it's not in their title. How long has a position existed? Now this is kind of, again, it's self-selected and people just reported. In 2009, 28% of the respondents didn't even have an ed tech position or people who had those duties in the law school. And 40% of the jobs were created in 2009, they said in the last 1 to 5 years. This year, and 31% within 5+ years. So most of the jobs were 1 to 5 years old. Yet this year, people are reporting that the average position has existed for 10+ years. Now, I'm not sure why that is. I'll give you, there's an email at the end of this, and if you want to look at the actual data, at the actual responses, I'm thinking perhaps it's because AV has been included and people have been doing AV forever. So, maybe. Now they're just calling it ed tech. Okay. Educational background of people with educational technology in their job descriptions. Other was number 1 in 2007. Okay. Number 2 wasn't really close, was MLS. Number 3 was an ed tech degree, and JD's was number 16. In the past 2 years, I think there's more people with educational technology in their job description. Those with JD and MLS degrees roughly doubled in the percentage of respondents. So of those who responded, double the people said they had JD or MLS degrees. Oh. Okay. Okay.
Not you, but.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like it. Other category up about 10%. The new category that we listed there is the computing degree at 17%. So it just seems what can you glean from this? There are more people with that in their job description, but we're still all over the place. Right now, MLS, librarian, and other are about neck and neck. So you have varied backgrounds. Departmental association. Who do they report to? What department do they belong to? 2009, 44% in the library, 34% in IT were the top 2. Small amount reported to University IT, small amount to the dean directly, and then 15% in the other category. Now, library and IT is about even. Audiovisual department has been added. And then there's the other, which has shrunk. Job responsibilities. Now this one was kind of hard to compare and contrast. 2009, we said, the number 1 responsibility for people with ed tech in their job description was training faculty on software and hardware. Number 2 was troubleshooting software and hardware. Number 3 was pedagogical training, and number 4, distance education support. In 2011, the types of I need to scroll in. Types of responsibilities are similar, but the duties are a little more specifically listed. So you could still say, training faculty on software and hardware. But they say support course website management systems, support classroom technology, support distance education, provide faculty training. We've also had things like handle formal project management, research educational technologies, kind of thing. And then the percentages of each are here. So everybody does support classroom technology, 90% of the people research educational technologies, but it seems like everybody does everything. That wasn't what I wanted to do. What happened? Okay. Conclusions. Over the past 2 years, there seems to be growth. and that's kind of obvious. More faculty using EdTech software and hardware, and corresponding demand for support. If you would like a copy of the specific data again and look at it, make your own conclusions, please email me. Next up, we have Lindsay, who is going to talk about specific results from the survey.
Can I have a microphone?
Mm-hmm.
All right, there we go. If you guys don't know what we're using Prezi, Prezi.com, for doing all of our presentations today. So I know we already had one question about what we were using. So in lieu of PowerPoint, we decided to play with something new for this. So I'm going to talk to you about the different technologies that EdTech supports. I've been doing EdTech for 3 or 4 years, 3-ish officially, longer than that. Unofficially. So I've noticed a big change in the different types of things that I've supported over the past few years. We support everything. Seriously. We support everything. I think that this quote pretty much exemplifies EdTech. We support anything anyone brings us to support, pencil sharpeners included. I would also add staplers, because everybody has Staplergate. What I found is if it doesn't fit within the traditional box of IT and has anything to do with faculty or students, it gets pushed to EdTech, because EdTech can do anything. So that's one of the best parts about my job, is I always get to play with different technologies because somebody wants to do something with a technology, and it makes most sense to throw it into the EdTech realm. There are very few things that I actually say, no, I don't support that. And that would be the stuff my colleague Andy does, like server administration, and the really scary stuff that breaks a lot. Okay, so what I did is I found the top 6 things that EdTech supports in our survey, and I'm just going to talk about them. Classroom technology is the first one. You saw the 5 of us up here in the classroom technology, trying to get everything working. The biggest, that's not where I wanted to go, is it? That's surprising you with number 2. Okay, so everybody supports projectors and screens. There was a 100% response rate. I think this is also because audiovisual or multimedia systems has been added into EdTech for part of it. I'm not the primary support at Mitchell for projectors and screens. That's in our multimedia department. So I thought it was kind of funny that that was mentioned. I do training on it, and it is one of the things that I can support. I just am not the primary support for this. Lecture capture and lecture capture alternative systems were mentioned, so either hardware or software solutions for lecture capture. Video and teleconferencing, I've noticed a huge increase in people wanting to use Skype or Adobe Connect or alternatives to using their telephone for conferencing, where they actually want to see each other. Though the concept that they can actually see each other is still strange to some people. Exam software, there was a presentation on exam software earlier today. That's one of the technologies that actually at Mitchell our IT department supports rather than EdTech, but that could be something that changes. I do more take-home exams on Blackboard rather than the actual exam software with Secure Exam. Another one that was mentioned was polling software and classroom response systems. CALI's InstaPoll hasn't been mentioned a lot, but Poll Everywhere was mentioned in at least 2, if not 3, sessions that I've attended so far. Those are kind of the big top 5 classroom technologies, other than the stuff that's in here, the projectors and the screens and the Crestrons and all of that good stuff. So next up, course management systems. Course management systems are about 40% of my job. We use Blackboard web courses through LexisNexis. I have all but 1 course on Blackboard web courses. I have one twin holdout, which still upsets me to this day. As you can see, our respondents this year said 81% of the people use Twen, 41% use LexisNexis web courses, 35% use Blackboard. However, many people are using multiple systems, and I think that this is a big challenge for ed tech, is having the multiple systems. I'm at a standalone institution, so pretty much people do what I tell them to do in the realm of course, except for my one holdout on Twen. They do what I tell them to do when it comes to a course management system. This is what we're going to use, this is how you use it, everything. But I can't imagine, I mean, I know how it was 3 years ago when we were on multiple systems, but having 2 or 3 different course management systems and having to support all of those and having your students have 2 or 3 or more different experiences with that. Research suggests that students have a better experience when there's consistency and when the same tabs are on the side and it's the same system and all of their classes are in one system. So that is a challenge that we're facing right now as to technologies we support. Okay, number 3, distance education. If you haven't heard, the ABA is loosening its regulations on distance education. Not by a whole lot, but they're loosening the regulations. So now more credits or more semesters can be used for distance education. So this is another huge part about what I do, and most of it is finding the technology to support distance education, both synchronous and asynchronous. Oh hush, you want to stay pretty. And so the big things are using Adobe Connect and Illuminate were mentioned by a lot of our respondents. At Mitchell we use Adobe Connect right now, but we're investigating several other systems because we want the best experience for our students. Yes? Can you use your microphone? Yeah.
How does that work for you?
Other than recording the sessions, it's brilliant. We have a lot of issues when we have multiple speakers and we're recording where the sound doesn't sync up properly, where it has a mess of voices at the beginning where the audio tracks all start at point 0 instead of in the timeline correctly. But otherwise, it's great. I'm a big fan of it. I used it in grad school, and I think it's fun. And we use the hosted system with Adobe. So they host it, and they run it, and we have 5 licenses or something like that. Illuminate's another one that some of our sister schools have used in the past. And I believe it was Illuminate that was just bought out by Blackboard. That Illuminate and Wimba were both bought out by Blackboard. So that may be in a Blackboard offering coming up soon. And I think if it is offered, I think LexisNexis, I can't say for certain, but they may offer part of that as well. And I will mention that Westlaw is doing beta testing with Adobe Connect. I don't know if that's a super big secret and if I'm letting the cat out of the bag with West right now, but I'm from St. Paul where West is, and they've asked for beta testers with Adobe Connect. So they may start offering that service as well. I can't say for free or not, but so now the vendors are starting to get into the distance learning stuff too, so they can offer webinars and tutorials. And these 2 are the big educational ones, rather than, like WebEx is more business related. I like the more educational ones. Faculty technology, number 4. Faculty have all kinds of different technologies. The ones that were mentioned a lot in the survey were in 2 different groups. Institutional repositories were mentioned by nearly everybody, and I think that comes from the library side of ed tech. With institutional repositories, people helping out with bpress, SSRN, and Expresso. Now we have our institutional repositories, bpress, and SSRN in our library. I don't support it, our reference librarians do, but Expresso sits in the hands of the faculty and the faculty administrative assistants. So that may get passed over to the library and everything because we're kind of the people that are good at citation and storing stuff and all of that, and we're responsible. So those were mentioned a lot by our survey respondents. And then the exciting world of PowerPoints. I was really surprised the amount of respondents that mentioned PowerPoint as another technology that they support for faculty. I have faculty that want to do voice over PowerPoint, or they want to do PowerPoint animations, then I cringe. And they just want help with being better presenters. So of anything in the Microsoft Office suite, EdTech supports PowerPoint. YouTube is another thing that we've been supporting a lot. Our advanced advocacy class uses YouTube to record opening and closing and cross-examinations. And then we post it up on YouTube, and we use the YouTube annotation feature that's built within, and we share it with the faculty, and then people are able to annotate students, or faculty members are able to annotate students' presentations. So that's something that we've been doing. And also blogging software. So WordPress was mentioned a lot, Blogger was mentioned a little bit. A lot of people have been going to WordPress, and our site is soon going to be all on WordPress, and our faculty centers and institutes and law reviews are all going to be on our WordPress sites. And then we have student technology. Now this was the part that people didn't really know what to say about student technology. Because there's so much, and it's part of the thing that I want to do more, because I feel like we support the faculty a lot, and I support the faculty support staff a lot. But there's been a big challenge on supporting the students, that it's not just about exam software, and it's not just about getting them on their course management system. There are things that we could be doing to teach them to be better students, and to be better administrators of things on law reviews or in clinics. So some of the respondents included, and wow, that looks a little funky, so I'm just going to roll that down a little bit. Case management software. A few years ago there was a discussion on the different types of case management software, Time Matters, that kind of thing. We actually went away from that because the students felt it was too difficult, and instead created a homegrown system for timekeeping. Law review websites were also mentioned. Media Notes, which is another video annotation tool that's run by CALI, and YouTube again. So if the faculty are using YouTube, a lot of the time the students use YouTube. And it's really fun to hear me say YouTube in a Minnesotan accent, isn't it? Okay. And last but not least, mobile technology. This is one of the big things that I heard about at the EDUCAUSE regional conference this year in Chicago. Mobile technology is really starting to take off, from using it for polling software and SMS in the classroom to SMS reference service for students and faculty in the library. iPads, Zooms, BlackBerry, whatever they just came out with. This is kind of the new hot topic that's kind of on the edge of trying to figure out how it's best going to be used, and that EdTech will be having fun supporting it. So I think the best part about my job is I get to play around with a lot of stuff. But the question I keep asking myself, and that I think we ask our colleagues a lot, is, are we supporting too much? And I think that's going to be a challenge for us in the future. So now I'm going to hand the mic over to Chester, and you'll get to hear about training.
We'll see if this works. All right, so my name is Chester Kozikowski. I'm an educational technology specialist at BC Law, and I've been there for about 3 years. My part of the EdTech survey was training. If you remember from the beginning, Barb said in 2009 that was the #1 thing that EdTech people did. So first we wanted to know who's responsible for it, or how many of us provide it. To faculty and staff, we have over 80%. I would like to know what the other people do, and how they got out of training, because it seems to be something that I spend a lot of time doing. I'd also like to know how someone got out of doing staff. And then, so what are we training on? Any technologies that are asked for, very similar to Lindsay's. What technologies do we support? Here's a little visual that I created for that. The technologies that we provide training on are basically broken up into hardware, software, and things that are blended. Things at BC that we support, provide training on for hardware, none of these. We don't really do anything for hardware, so I guess we're lucky because a lot of people who responded to the survey said that they do classroom projectors and things like that. We do, however, focus a lot on the blended stuff. We're involved with lecture capture, clickers, web conferencing, and recording video and audio. For software, that is where it seems like we provide the most training. By we, I mean the survey respondents. At BC, we do everything from Office to blogs, CALI Author, Media Notes has been big, and of course Blackboard and Twin. So we do a lot of things. How we're doing it was pretty interesting to find out from the survey. It seems we do a lot of different things. Brown bags, group demonstrations, workshops, documentation, and different kinds of tutorials. But the number one answer was that it's one-on-one and at the convenience of the faculty. I feel like the author, if we had allowed italicizing, would have italicized adjunct faculty. So what we do at BC, yeah, you probably can't read that. We do group demonstrations. We try to do 2 a semester. This spring, we just finished one on Media Notes, and then we invited LexisNexis in to do a demonstration on CaseMap in Lexis Microsoft Office. Brown bags, we try to have twice a year, although we do them if they're requested to have more. We just did one on CaseMap, which grew from our group demonstration. The academic dean wanted us to present CaseMap as a research tool. So that was kind of interesting. We do workshops every semester. They're like clockwork for Blackboard and Twin. We have faculty bring their RAs or just come in groups. We've also done other ones on like Twitter and iClickers. Documentation is very big at BC Law. We provide it for everything that we do. We've started doing video tutorials just to sort of recap when people can't make a group demonstration. We'll do like a 5 to 10 minute Camtasia of it. And then like in the survey, our most popular service is one-on-one on-demand training. So my question to you is, what are you all doing? Which you're more than welcome to answer now or hold for later. I guess we'll hold.
Hi everyone, I'm Berrio, Matamoros, and I'm the person with an insanely long title that I'm not going to repeat right now, but I am an educational technology specialist as part of that. And so my area I was focused on was how folks promote ed tech at their law schools. And of course, the number one response was email. Sending out email newsletters, announcements to faculty, sending out just updates on what's going on with course management systems or keeping faculty involved and filling their inboxes and pretty much having them hit delete the moment they see one of our email addresses. So I was surprised to see that a lot of folks are using paper flyers still and dropping off newsletters in faculty mailboxes, which is actually kind of a good idea because with all that email and in faculty's mind spam that they're getting, it's great to actually give them something to hold on to, put in a stack on their desk, and sometime when they're cleaning it off, stop and read through it and get a refresher of what you're doing with educational technology and what's available to them. But the most important thing that we saw about promoting ed tech was talking to faculty in many different ways, but really it was all about the face-to-face communication, which is surprising because with ed tech you'd think it'd be tech-focused, but no matter what, when you're trying to get faculty on board to do something, you really need face-to-face communication, whether it be group presentations or brown bags, but almost most importantly, it's the one-on-one meetings with faculty. And in this, actively listening to what faculty are saying about their courses. So picking up on individual things and identifying other ed tech needs from those things. In our roles, we often have to help faculty along the way to figure out where they need our help, where they need EdTech help, and sometimes push and nudge to get that to happen. So one thing that we do a lot at BC is sort of just identify things, point out some ideas, plant a seed. Some of these projects might take a while to actually develop, if they ever do develop, but for example, this past fall in one of our professional responsibility courses, we did a group collaboration project using Google Docs. And that seed was planted by Chester a year and a half before it actually came to fruition. And it's something that Chester sort of mentioned to this faculty member every couple months whenever they ran into each other in the hallway. He mentioned it again. It's like, oh yeah, do you want to do this group project for your course? And eventually the faculty member was hooked, and we got it to happen last fall, which was fantastic. But really the important thing for ed tech folks in the field is to never miss an opportunity, to always be listening, always be looking, and always be identifying different things, sort of brainstorming on the fly with faculty about where they can include ed tech in their courses. Because if they hear it enough, sometimes they actually do get brainwashed with it. One of the most interesting responses we got was a concept that the respondent called trolling, which was during some downtime going to the faculty office areas and just popping your head in and asking about their courses, what they're like, showing interest. And then while you're having those conversations, you get a good feel for the courses and also get to start planting some seeds. So it seems like just those casual conversations can really pay off. So we also asked folks who initiates ed tech projects at their schools. And one surprising thing is that the actual most popular response was IT staff, which thinking about it actually makes sense because IT staff are the front line for anything technology related in faculty's minds. And so often when IT staff are dealing with a different issue, faculty will mention something to them expecting them to be the ones involved in it because they're sort of still getting used to this idea that someone has an ed tech role at their school. So then IT staff passes it on to the ed tech staff, who also oftentimes, we spend some time reading about different new technologies and we come up with zany ideas that we can present to faculty on how we want to use these. So just about as often we saw that ed tech staff are the ones who initiate things. And every so often faculty do have the initiative, see something neat, they read, come across somewhere in the Chronicle or something like that, and come to us and say, I want to try this, which is always great to have faculty bought in from the very beginning. So what kind of projects are put together by ed tech specialists? Well, the everyday projects that were mentioned by Lindsay and Chester. Also surprisingly, classroom renovations. So a lot of schools are looking to their ed tech specialists or ed tech folks to incorporate these ideas of where things are going so that when they're putting all this money into classroom renovations, they're actually looking to the future in the technology they're purchasing and how they're setting up their classrooms. And then ed tech specialists also spend a lot of time with implementing new technologies, of course, but also redesigning websites and participating in either school-wide or university-wide evaluations of new technology. So even stuff that isn't ed tech specific, it seems like we're all being brought in to give our 2 cents about these new technologies as they're being considered. And so again, we're asking, how do you yourselves promote ed tech at your schools? And we'd love to hear about that either now or at the end as we have our discussion. Anything now? All right. And then Debbie Ginsberg.
We'll make you talk.
All right. Green light. All right. Escape. This one. Full screen. So I decided to add to at the last minute to the survey that a more general question to find out what has changed in the last 2 years, because I had the sense that things were rapidly evolving and changing and that their survey would reflect this, but I wanted a chance to have the survey participants to have a chance to tell us what they had seen themselves. So I asked them, how has it changed in the last 2 years, and provided 1 or 2 of the most important changes. And I've divided up all their different answers into different categories. So, I got one answer that's kind of
vague. They said, yes, it broadened, which is good because that's what I expected, that the categories and the different technologies we're working with had changed and broadened. We had some people report that they had little or no change. One person said they had newer equipment, and in my school that would be a good change because it's something we're working for, but it all depends. Maybe they didn't get a lot of newer equipment. But one answer I thought sort of reflected if there wasn't change, why there wouldn't be. And they said it's because the perception among their senior leadership was the need wasn't great enough. They knew that things had to change and that things had to evolve, but they hadn't quite yet been able to communicate from their that to their senior leadership. So they, at that point, were stagnant. Hopefully, in the next couple of years, they'll see some changes. A lot of people mentioned new tools. Some were very general, so it includes us. We're in the middle of implementing a large classroom technology upgrade, but all these came down to more ed tech, and that's how they spelled it. Some people mentioned very specific equipment they had added, from new Extron equipment. Clicker systems were something that a lot of people were starting to add. And some people mentioned they added new services, like more self-help services, because if we are going to add all these new technologies, there's got to be a way for people to use it. And of course, if there's just a few of us, and there's a lot of them, the self-help services are what we're going to need to provide in order to make this happen. All of these people, when they mention something that's pretty much this, are a very similar kind of new tool, and it all boils down to the adoption of more media in the classroom. So it's not just clickers, it's not just new projectors and screens, but we're seeing more YouTube videos. We've now seen that come up in pretty much everyone's presentation. Lecture capture systems are becoming more popular, and video conferencing. Some people mentioned that one of the big changes was they added new people. They were getting specialists in ed tech and more help in ed tech. One person said they got a new educational technology specialist and an additional AV tech that was going to help with non-business hours, and that these two new positions were critical to the success of ed tech in their law school. But, of course, not everyone can add new positions, and so one person noted that they had more identified leadership, so they knew where the head duck was that they needed to go when they had ed tech questions because they had streamlined their leadership. I also saw what I've kind of termed new attitude or new situation. And sometimes the situation would reflect the current economic situation or current health situation. So you've got budgets that are cut, H1N1 virus scares coming up. How are we going to continue to provide education with the tools we have now? So they started using more lecture capture to make that happen. A lot of people noted just generally the demand for services increased, and that the services were taking more time, and they were using more technology. So they had their original resources, and now there were demands to do more to it. We also had some people who told us why. They said faculty were more apt to try new things than before, so that was one reason they were seeing changes. Some people just noted faculty were more receptive. We noted we were seeing a lot of faculty-generated ideas, and some noted specific faculty-generated ideas like Twitter in the classroom. It's happened in more than one place. It's not just faculty that are seeking to use all these resources. One change that people noted is students are asking for it too. They want to make this part of their education, and they're not waiting for their faculty to put it out in the classroom first. And so some places are focusing on student learning and studying habits as places that they can look to figure out where the technology resources should go. And I thought this summarized it pretty well. It's not that faculty are seeking out, mostly the faculty are seeking out ways to incorporate. It's not dramatic changes, like suddenly we have lots of new equipment and lots of new ideas. But faculty are getting more comfortable with the technology and realizing some of the advantages it can bring to the classroom. So incrementally, we're seeing bits and pieces. Let's try Twitter here. Let's try a WordPress site there. Hey, can I use my iPad for something? I want to show a YouTube video. All these different things are coming into the classroom one bit at a time. So what I did is I took all of these answers and I put them into a Wordle, Wordle.net. And what Wordle does is, if there more often a word is represented in the text that you put there, the bigger it is. And as I looked at this, I noticed that 5 words stood out that I think really reflect the changes in the last 2 years. And they are faculty, use, classroom, technology, equipment. Wow. Huh. So before, we could put some of this equipment in there, and it wouldn't necessarily be that we could build it, but necessarily they wouldn't come. They weren't comfortable with it. They didn't see its utility. They weren't sure how they were going to make use of it. We might get a few early adopters, but a lot of people were really uncomfortable figuring out how they would implement it as part of their class. But as I started to see what the early adopters did, as they started to see what the students were asking for, as they became more comfortable, like the picture of the cat showed, they're starting to use it. So we're coming from a space where we have the equipment, but not sure how to integrate it, to a place where faculty are comfortable using it, and that's going to, again, demand us more resources from us, more time, and more training. So my question to you guys that I will expect an answer to is, what changes have you seen in the last 2 years, and did what we see reflect what you've seen? Okay, what have you seen?
Yes, faculty are.
And push the button.
Yes, faculty are getting more comfortable with using equipment in the classroom.
Like what? Told you, I make it.
Well, they're not requesting as much help. They're not requesting as much support. So that's how
So they're using the self-help.
Yes.
All right. Any other good changes? If not, I'm going to ask my panel.
Well, I'm definitely seeing some requests for video conferencing stuff. You know, faculty are more willing to take advantage of Skype-type technologies that they can skip the class physically, but still remote in.
Right, as I've seen this too. Faculty have travel obligations. How am I going to be, at this conference where I need to talk and teach class at the same time? Well, before, they really couldn't imagine what the technology was, or it was just too expensive or cumbersome. Well, who here has Skype on their computer? They do too. So they're realizing, oh, hey, I can use a simple tool I already understand to do something that I never thought was possible. Barbara, what have you seen?
iPad.
Okay.
Session of that.
Press the button. And hold.
iPad use. iPad was kind of shocking how quickly people adopted that, and I'm sure that's all over the place. These are not normally early adopters, but that went through the roof, and we just got a session on that. And also a request for more education. They want to know more. They want to learn more before they get out in the classroom and experiment. So exactly what you've been saying.
How many of your faculty now have iPads? 20%. 25% of your faculty have iPads. Wow. Can you press the button?
Our fiscal year gets over at the end of June. We got 7 orders in the last week.
Wow.
So, yeah, they want us.
Last minute iPads. Alex and Chester? Oh, wait, someone up back there?
One of the things that I've seen is a more significant use of course management software by faculty, much more sophisticated of embedding things as opposed to just using it as an online syllabus.
All right, so beyond the syllabus repository, the course management systems are being used to house videos, to do online sign-up sheets, and more than that. You guys?
We've seen a lot of lecture capture being used at BC Law for the past 2 years, ever since we had Echo 360. We are actually the biggest user of lecture capture for the whole college.
Wow.
So in the first year, I think we were responsible for 70% of the use.
In your whole college, 70%?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, we're investigating that now too. We have a budget for it, and we're shopping for it.
Excellent. Who here has lecture capture now? Increasingly popular. It reflects what we saw in the survey. Yep.
Just this summer, one of our adjunct faculty, who happens to be a judge, we do record all of our classes, and by default, they're left up for 2 weeks for the students unless the faculty wants them to stay up for the whole semester. But this particular judge, federal judge, decided to use his flip camera and make a recording at home to supplement and have that posted for the whole season. And we just, semester, we just had to do a little bit of work to cut out the beginning where his family was involved, in the middle where he had to go quiet his dog. But we were able to package it and post it. What our school does is create a playlist for each course, and the students, log in and they see their playlist for that course and can watch the videos there. So I think that might happen more with them making these small recordings at their home, or where they've already done what you've already said, make a recording and stream in with some sort of connection to supplement the class when they're not there.
Right. We have a faculty member who's working on it too. He's ratcheting up the technology as far as he can, and using like Camtasia and stuff. And he's teaching business law, and he's finding that his students don't always understand some of the basic financial principles. So he's creating short videos. He's going to post them to YouTube that explain some of the concepts he's talking about in his class. And he's doing the recording and all the editing himself. He's having a lot of fun. So I think we're going to see more supplements like you're talking about. Lindsay?
Well, one of the things we're going to start working on this summer is some of our faculty have done some of the West published advocacy or kind of training videos with examples of opening statements and everything. And so we're going to use our in-house studio and Final Cut and get those and then post them up on our Vimeo or YouTube site so that we hold the copyright instead of West. And then our students can go in and do that and track everything. So that's one of the projects we're starting.
Okay. So Lindsay sort of brought our next question. We've talked about how things have changed. We're seeing more sophisticated use of course management systems. We're seeing more video use. What do you guys see as what's coming up next that maybe we're not quite prepared for yet? Oh, yep. Okay.
Something similar to what you just mentioned, just supplemental tutorials. I think that faculty are interested in that. I have one professor who's wants to do the supplemental, but just very basic, like Khan Academy with the tablet, and just capture it and upload it somewhere. We haven't figured out where we're going to load it. And then like guest speakers, that's getting easier to do.
Yes.
We're using something new called Scopia at our university. Scopia. Very easy. Our admissions, they're using it to interview applicants from abroad because we have an international LLM program. And so that's easy. There's not a lot of setup.
Okay.
What is it? Scopia, Scopia. It's like Adobe Connect, but easier on the end user, I'd say.
Okay. Yep.
For the supplemental, if you have professors that aren't really comfortable with video or hate being on camera, we do supplemental podcasts just recording through Audacity, and it's been a huge hit with our students because not all of them want to watch their professor. Actually, very few of them do. But this way they can throw it on their MP3 player, listen to it while they're on the treadmill in the car. And a lot of them are actually doing something that they don't even address in class. They'll do a supplemental lesson that'll ask a question. It'll be addressed in the next podcast, but they don't talk about it in class. They can either see them in their office or wait till the next podcast.
Okay.
As it was already mentioned, I think that iPad use will really have a huge impact in the next couple of years. I mean, I've been in my role for only 8 months, so I'm definitely the newbie among the panel. But I've already seen in the time I've been in this position that sort of got the impression that faculty have seen their laptops, their desktops, mostly as word processing, email, web browsing, PowerPoint machines. And now that they're getting iPads, they're realizing, all right, this is something new. I want to have entirely new features. I don't want that to be a laptop replacement, but I really want to do exciting things with this. So it's really great to see that kind of excitement come through from faculty.
Back there?
I really think that at least I'm from BU, and I really think that the coming thing is going to be stuff that's done in the cloud. And I think that for a number of reasons.
Like Prezzies.
What's that?
Like Prezzies.
Well, I think that faculty tend to get frustrated with IT support, and that many people do. But what happens is when you're in the cloud, you don't have to deal with that really as much anymore. You may have to call somebody from Box.net or Dropbox or whatever it might be to work on something, but you still have a relatively safe, relatively secure place that you can always go and do things. And in some ways, and I do talk to them sometimes about this, it can be an end around university IT. So, for example, we have mandated Blackboard use. Frankly, I loathe Blackboard. And this provides an opportunity to put course information up on the web and do other things up on the web that can be accessed from anywhere. And I think faculty really like that. And we're actually going through now a system to begin recommending and supporting various cloud collaborations.
And I like that point about it's the end, running an end run around something. So it's not just, oh, you have to use Blackboard, so we'll use Blackboard and something. But of course, if you're on Technoids, that the whole thing about, oh, we're going to shut off internet in the classroom. Well, how many of us could still have internet access even if you shut it off with our phones and all that? So being prepared for that end run, I think, or end run around is going to be an interesting challenge. But finding ways to work around it. Yep.
The interesting sort of other side of that
Press the button?
It is.
Oh, I can't hear. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Is that they may try to do a run around, the IT, and that they find frustrating, faculty or presenters. But they're going to introduce more frustration in their lives by doing it. You have a faculty person who uses Dropbox, who then fills up their hard drive on their work machine and can't figure out why things aren't working because they dumped a bunch of stuff on it at home. And so they still come to IT for support. They don't call Dropbox. They come to the people close to them at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Sunday trying to get support. So I think that the introduction of the unexpected is going to be taking advantage of the new tools that are really great, but not realizing that they aren't some panacea. They're still going to need support.
So that's going to be our training challenge, is to make sure they understand what the tools are and what the limits of the tools are. So, Dropbox holds how many gig and your hard drive holds how many more, for example. Other questions and comments? Yep.
So this past winter season, we got buried in Connecticut, and so we had to subscribe to one of those GoToMeetings or WebEx so that when we had class cancellations, professor would still be able to teach their classes even remotely. And we have a distance learning program. The challenge now is on the distance learning, which we use a video conferencing system through Polycom and Tandberg, is that it's sort of one-way video. So we are only sending the image of the classroom with the professor and the students that are in that classroom out to the distance learning students. So I'm just sort of wondering if anybody has come across any solutions or options for also feeding the image of the student back to the professor in the classroom who's teaching live without putting too much pressure on the student to buy expensive equipment.
Lindsay?
I can answer that a little bit just because in Minnesota we get a lot of snow, and that's one of our concerns with the distance learning thing. I think when you're doing distance learning or you're doing something where you're broadcasting your classroom, you have to decide if you want a hardware solution or a software solution. And with the software solution, if it's on a laptop or something, or if it's something on the web, like Adobe Connect or WebEx or Illuminate, you can be anywhere you want and do that kind of thing. If you have a Tandberg system or some of those other hardware-based systems, that's a big challenge. That's one of our concerns is we want to be able to have it in different classrooms. Well, that might mean putting it on a cart and rolling it from place to place. And so we decided to go with the software solution because with Adobe Connect, we can have multiple webcams, and you just have each user log in with a webcam. And you can have, I think, 12 different cameras on the system. And so everybody shows up at the top or however you have it done, so that when we've done the distance ed classes or webinars or just had regular meetings, everybody shows up and you can see the people that you're doing. So we've had it in 2 different classrooms before, and had 6 people all looking in one camera and 6 people looking in the other. We did a distance class with New England School of Law this year where we tried WebEx and we did Adobe. And it worked pretty seamless.
Yep.
Yeah, Skype actually is now offering multiple, connections through
Good old Skype.
Skype Business. So you have to pay a little bit, but I've used it a few times, and I think you just have to have the newest version. Only the host has to have the newest version, and that solves that a little bit. I don't know what the limit, though, of that is.
Yeah, so Skype has more tools now for this kind of thing.
Yeah,
we actually use Skype for something like that, but had
future.
The faculty member looking at this class all scrunched together. Yep.
I did have a question about the YouTube recording for lessons where the professor would then use the annotate function to critique what was going on. Were there any privacy concerns? Or were the videos set to private beforehand? Because that's something that we run into with a lot of our professors and students.
We've tried it both ways. We did an experiment where students had a choice of making it public or private. The majority of the students decided to make them private. So the second experiment, which I'm not sure if we're going to go with for this fall, was having one account, have the videos private, and then both faculty and students could get in there. And the only issue we had, the students didn't care about other students in the class seeing them because they were in the performance room anyway. That sounded a lot dirtier than I intended it to. They were in the room with the students anyway doing their opening and closing statements. The only issue we had was an administrative assistant for the class ended up deleting stuff off of YouTube, and there's no archive of it.
Oh.
And our wonderful IT staff still had it on the hard drive, or on the backed up network drive of a computer, so they had to go through our tapes and get everything again. But, I mean, that's the only downfall that we had to using YouTube. I'd love if they had a more secure, you can't delete this because you lose all the annotations or something, but that was the only problem we had.
Other questions or comments? Thoughts? Thought I'd leave you guys with one more thought. So playing with Prezi again. One of our biggest challenges, I think, is we think of everything we talked about today, everything from YouTube to course management systems to clickers to video conferencing. And this is one of my favorite answers where we ask, what is it that you handle, other than like the couple things we've mentioned. And they added all this stuff: book theft system, disability support system, career development, the HVAC. At some point, it becomes a little much. So we're trying to specialize. Like you said, anything that didn't go obviously to someone else went to you. And I think that's where we might get ourselves in a little trouble. But we are, as the IT and the library and the faculty that are the early adopters and the technology specialists in law schools, this is what we handle best. And it'd be fun to see how we keep handling this and more kinds of technology over the next 2 years. Thanks for coming. We made more Wordles.
One thing that a couple of faculty members just, it sort of happened to last. It's an electronic advising sheet so that you can no longer have paper regarding course requirements, certificate requirements, how many hours have you completed, what have you taken.
Oh, they're going to automate that.
They want to have a template that's available to all faculty.
That was my response.
What?
The long one.
Oh, I like that one. How are they going to do it?
They're working on it now, and it'll be a template, and it'll have courses listed, and then it'll have your certificate program that you'll have to complete, how long quickly you'll have to complete it. So if you're advising students, instead of having lots of different pieces of paper, well, if you're getting a certificate in dispute resolution, this is what you've got to complete.
I don't know. And so then I saw you both at the station. I'm like,
Thank you guys. Great job.
Yeah, no, I'm the person who does it at you, but I feel like I'm a little bit more limited than you guys.
I owe you.